This is Midwest Moxie, a show about our region's visionary entrepreneurs and the experiences that shape them. I'm your host, Kathleen Gallagher, Executive Director of Five Lakes Institute. Zhen Xu knew that most people thought it was impossible to use an ultrasound machine to destroy tumors inside the body. But Zhen was still a University of Michigan Ph.D. student. She decided she could afford to try. After years of testing how to control the high-intensity sound waves, that decision paid off, and a new non-invasive medical procedure was born. In 2009, Zhen co-founded HistoSonics, a Plymouth, Minnesota company whose non-invasive platform liquifies and destroys tumors at the subcellular level. A consortium of top-tier investors that included Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and PayPal and Palantir Technologies co-founder Peter Thiel acquired a majority stake in August 25 in HistoSonics for $2.25 billion. That made HistoSonics the second largest venture capital-backed medical device transaction ever, excluding IPOs or public company acquisitions. Zhen, who is now a professor at University of Michigan, is joining us today with Jim Addix, managing partner at Venture Investors, a Madison venture capital firm. Zhen and Jim, welcome to Midwest Moxie.
Thank you. Great to be here, Kathleen.
Zhen, you discovered histotripsy, the use of focused ultrasound waves to destroy tumors without the need for invasive surgery or radiation. What prompted you to explore this idea?
So in 2001, I just finished my bachelor degree in biomedical engineering from China and became a first-year PhD student of biomedical engineering at University of Michigan. A pediatric cardiologist named Ahi Ludomirsky came over to our group. So he was operating on babies with congenital heart disease and needed to create perforations in their heart to save their lives. But those babies were so sick, they were dying on the surgical table. So he came to our group and said, can you guys invent a non-invasive way to perform the real surgery, meaning actually mechanically remove tissue? And I was so inspired. And right after his talk, I went to my PhD mentor, Charles King, at the time. I said, this sounds like a wonderfully impossible idea, and I want to take it on for my PhD dissertation.
Wow. No one else was lining up to do that, right?
I was the only crazy one.
After you decided to take the risk and work on the idea of using ultrasound to destroy tumors, your PhD advisor, the guy you mentioned, Charles Kane, gave you some unusual advice. What was it?
So give me two advices. First, make sure your GPA do not exceed A-. And that was hard because I was an A+ student. But he said, if your grade exceeds A-, meaning you spend too much time studying the courses, not enough time in the lab. And second is, he said, I don't want you to read papers. Again, that was a shock. But he said, I don't want you, your innovative mind to be restricted by conventional thinking. Because you're going to do something impossible. The paper is not going to help you anyway. But after you make some progress, you can go back to read. But at first, just don't think out of the box, open-minded, and don't restrict yourself.
Wow, that is incredibly unusual advice for a PhD student, but what a liberating piece of advice too, right? The procedure you invented, histotripsy, sends sound waves into targeted areas. How do those sound waves vaporize a tumor?
So 3 steps. First, you have to focus ultrasound precisely into the target tumor. What we do is we use a segment of the spherical surface as the shape of ultrasound transducer. Therefore, all points on that transducer have equal distance to the center of the sphere, which is our focus. And so the sound will deliver to the focus of the transducer.
The transducer is what sends the sound waves into the body?
Yes, ultrasound transducer is a device that converts electrical signal to sound and then send the sound to the body. So then you can generate a precise focus. It typically is around 1 to 2 millimeter size focus. Now we all breathing air, so we have nanometer gas pockets in our body because it's filtered by the lung. And the sound wave is mechanical wave that compress and relax particles, you can generate positive pressure and negative pressure. And when we can generate negative pressure, which means that make the pressure outside the gas pockets actually lower than the inside of pockets, you can make the gas pockets to grow instantaneously. The nanometer gas pockets we have actually has surface tension of 200 times of the atmosphere.
So I just want to make sure you're saying that we have little pockets of gas inside our bodies, and you're targeting these little gas pockets. When you do that, it makes bubbles, right?
Yes, we make, though, the second step is grow micro bubbles from those nanometer gas pockets and actually make them grow to 100 micron or larger, which is 100,000 times of growth.
But they're still tiny. I mean,
they're still tiny, but they are occurring within a few microseconds. But that's a big growth, almost like a bomb, but on a micron scale. Right.
So bubble bombs.
the micro bubble gums, and that's our effective scalpel. So when there's and they're the size order of cell. So when those bubbles are generated outside the cell, when they grow, they squeeze the cell. When they collapse, they actually pull cells apart. So it's those bubbles actually produce local mechanical strain to literally pull cells apart. And that allows us to liquefy the tumor into acellular debris and destroy the tumor. And the body eventually just clean that acellular debris out. So you mechanically destroy and remove the tumor and tissue.
One of the interesting things about this is that traditionally with ultrasound, you were trying not to create those bubbles. But here you were in the lab trying to create these bubbles that would destroy the tissue that you were targeting. But you were using pigs' hearts to do all your testing. Where did you get the pigs' hearts?
Yeah, because the pediatric cardiologist came in and talk about the congenital heart disease, I thought I would start with pig hearts. And because that's kind of the closest thing I can think of to our human hearts. What I did is I first opened up a yellow pages, still remember that back then. I found a local slaughterhouse and I called them up. I said, I want to get pig hearts. When do you slaughter your pigs? And they told me a time is early, like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. They asked me to go over. I went over. The guy greeted me. He's like, "Are you squeamish or not?" I was like, "I don't understand what you're saying, but no." And then he gave me a black trash bag, and then he led me through a line of where you have like pigs rotating and beheaded cow flying from ceiling, and then to this huge trash can, and he said, $5, dive in. What happened is a huge trash can of pig internal organs, and I was given the right to pick whatever I want with $5, just fill in that black trash bag, and that's what I did. That's where I got the pig hearts, and I ended up doing experiments for years with the pig hearts from that slaughterhouse.
So you just put some gloves on and dug in and
pulled no gloves. You kidding me? No, they don't give you gloves, and you shouldn't use that because they will look at you as you're not part of us, so no gloves, just diving with bare hands, get the pig hearts out, put in the trash bag and thank them, give them $5 and leave.
So you're working with these pig's hearts, sending the sound waves into them, trying to get these bubbles to make holes really in the hearts. And tell us about the moment when you had the breakthrough. What happened?
Yeah, so just set up the scene, right? So I was doing experiments with the pig hearts in the water tank for a year and the failed experiments, didn't achieve anything. And as an engineer, the first thing I can think of when things don't work is up the power, right? So I was able to find this old amplifier sitting in the lab. It's a ENI A1000 amplifier, so 1,000 watts, and they actually run this thick cable plug into a 380 volts power. There's only one plug on campus and cable is 4 feet long. So I literally just clean my space. I'm like, this is my space. I'm going to pile this with pig hearts and nobody touch it. And then for this, year where I tried everything failed. And I remember there's one lab mate came to me and said, "Zhen, you are being so loud," because we're using powerful ultrasound sequence. It's ultrasound. It's not supposed to be loud because ultrasound means that it's beyond our hearing range, right? But for the experiments I was doing, I was pulsing them and using high power and at the rate that you can see or hear them. So he was unhappy with me being loud. So I said, okay, how do I not be loud? And I turn up the pulsing frequency beyond our hearing range, 20 kilohertz, which means that the time separation between the pulses would be shorter than 50 microseconds. And that's a really short time. And so, which means my pulse have to be a few microseconds long, which is typically people don't use because they take time for the ultrasound transducer to ring up to the full power, just like, ring the bell. But I said, okay, nothing worked anyway. So I use a microsecond lens pulse and turn the knob all the way to the maximal of my amplifier. Then I sit there and aim at the peak heart. And what I saw is that 10 centimeter away where transducer is focused, then aiming at the peak heart, I literally see in the water tank, it's almost like a smoke coming out, but it's not smoke, it's submicron tissue debris generated by the ultrasound. And within a minute, I saw this beautiful millimeter-sized hole through the peak heart tissue. And I was just shocked. And I was like, I must be dreaming. It's not happening because, after this long time failure, I'm probably imagining things. So I did it a second time. And my rule of thumb is if I repeat 3 times and it repeats the same way, it must be real. So I repeated 3 times and I saw 3 holes. And I literally stood up and I ran over to Charles King's office and I said, Charles, you have to come over. Something really special just happened.
This was in 2002 when you first saw that you made the hole by changing the pulsing of the sound waves. It would take 6 more years before Jim or the University of Michigan Commercialization Office heard about it. Jim, why do you think it took so much longer?
Yeah, I think it took so long because it was still, it was very early. As Zhen said, they had a prototype amplifier. And I think the other reason was this congenital heart condition that she was treating was really important, but it really wasn't an economically viable market to make big investments in a new company for a venture capitalist. So that was really in the realm of NIH funded research. So important work, but really should be funded by the government, not by venture capitalists, because we would never see a return on that indication. But then things changed and they came up with another application treating BPH, benign, what would it be?
Benign prostatic hyperplasia.
Yeah. So treating, so I'll start
enlarged
over.
prostates.
Yeah, treating BPH or enlarged prostate. And that is a really big market and one that we were definitely interested in starting a company, investing in it.
This is Kathleen Gallagher, host of Midwest Moxie. We're talking with Zhen Xu from University of Michigan about her invention of histotripsy, a non-invasive medical procedure that uses sound waves to evaporate tumors inside the body. We're going to take a quick break, then come back and learn how, after a failed clinical trial, Jim Addix from Venture Investors doubled down and risked his career to keep HistoSonics alive. We're back with Zhen Xu of University of Michigan and Jim Addix of Venture Investors, and we're talking about HistoSonics, a company whose non-invasive sonic beam therapy platform can destroy targeted liver tumors at a subcellular level. Zhen, we talked at the end of the last segment about how there were commercial reasons that it took so long after you saw the hole in the pig heart to bring it to market. But there were other reasons as well, just research reasons. Tell us other issues you had once you saw those holes in the pig heart.
Yeah, actually, within a month after I first did that pig experiment and was able to generate holes, I had to go to Charles' office again. And I said, Charles, good news and bad news. Good news is I was able to repeat the experiments. The bad news is I just destroyed the most expensive piece of equipment in the lab. But I don't think it's my fault. I think the existing commercial equipment, even the best ones, were just not sufficient to do what we want to do. And if we are serious about this, and at the time historypsy was not even a term yet, we need to build our own equipment. And Charles and I at the time made a decision. We designed and started developing our own equipment. And that took 6 years. And another thing is that the mechanism was unknown. So entire scientific community was questioning, like, what is going on? And it really took us a number of years to study exactly what's the mechanism of using ultrasound generate bubbles, and the bubbles to generate destroy the tumor, and in a very controlled and predictable fashion. So both together, that's why it took some time to figure those out.
Jim, how did you first find out about what Zhen was doing?
So I'm in Ann Arbor, and I led the spinoff of a number of companies from the University of Michigan before this. And I'm also an engineer. So I really enjoy walking the halls of the labs and getting demos. And I talked to a number of people in the labs of biomedical engineering, and they said, you got to go look at this histotripsy stuff. It's really cool. And so that's what I did. I called up Charles and Jen and scheduled an appointment and got a demo. And I really liked it because it was very different, even radical. And what most people in ultrasound are trying to do is avoid cavitation, because it's like a runaway phenomenon.
Cavitation is making the bubbles that implode the tissue.
Right. And most people try to avoid that because it's uncontrolled. But what Charles and Jen had done was figure out how to control it very precisely. And that was really special. And I just thought, if this works, it could be huge.
So you had a meeting with them, and Charles at least wasn't real welcoming, right?
Yeah, Charles was tough. I think some people might call him a little ornery. But this was his baby and his lab, and they were really proud of their work, and I think they knew how special it was in the scientific community. But the idea of creating a company and everything that involved, all the capital, all the risk, the team building on the business side, was all new to him. So he really challenged me and said, "What are you going to do for me? What is show me, prove it to me." And that's where I was able to give him examples from the prior companies that I work with. And I encouraged him to talk to the other professors and the other companies about my work. I was confident that he would get, good references, and he did.
Little did you know that was the first of many tests you would go through with your histotripsy journey. Venture Investors made its first investment into HistoSonics in late 2009. You venture capitalists usually try and get your return or get out of the company within 10 years. But 10 years into this investment, HistoSonics' first clinical trial, one that involved this enlarged prostate condition that you talked about earlier, was unsuccessful. Many venture capitalists would have bailed at that point. An unsuccessful clinical trial over. Why didn't you bail?
Because I saw enough signal in all the noise of the failed study. And the failed study was it was successful in that it was the first time histotripsy had been used safely in humans. So that was really the first endpoint. So we were successful in that. So that was really important because this has to be safe. So we did prove the safety. What we lacked was getting a clear efficacy signal. And again, I'm an engineer. I spent time in the lab, with Jen and having her explain things to me. And I really believed that we needed more power, just like early on, as Jen talked about, she needed to turn the knob up to 11. We needed to do something similar here. And so in the fundamental histotripsy, we proved we had a lot of other development challenges on how to couple the ultrasound and, how to robotically control it. Those things I knew we could overcome with more time and money. But I kept seeing that histotripsy, the fundamental invention, worked. And that's why I doubled down on it.
Jen, were you worried he was going to leave? He was going to just say, "We're done. We've put enough money in."
I thought we were going to close off HistoSonics, honestly, after that trial. I can tell you how grateful I was, and I am still to Jim, that he really just stuck with us all the way through. And I don't think I ever seen any VC like Jim. And Jim is the reason we're still here and we're doing well. So thank you, Jim.
After that first trial, the two of you started working even more closely together. To give us a sense of how closely you worked together, tell us about this time after the failed trial, that you brought Johnson & Johnson into Zhen's lab.
Sure. Well, we said we missed the one endpoint on the study, and Zhen and I both doubled down because we both believed in it, and we had to work even harder. Some people kind of left, and we had this opportunity with Johnson & Johnson. They were interested in histotripsy, and they had been following it for a while. Dr. Joe Amaral, who worked at Johnson & Johnson, he understood it, and he was having a hard time convincing others inside of J&J. And he arranged for one of their executive vice presidents or senior leaders to come to Ann Arbor to see it. And I knew if he would see it and see a demo, he would get it, just like I did almost 10 years earlier when I was walking the halls. And that's where Zhen was great, because her lab, she could give the best demo. And she showed in the water tank the evolution of the demo from her first, hypoplastic heart ablation. She had developed that and be able to show even more. And you could literally see it now. So while it was non-invasive in the water tank, you could see it. And Zhen just gave a fantastic demo and really explained it with, tremendous energy and vision and passion, and literally swept the J&J executive off his feet. And I know he went back and said, wow, this is something we gotta make an investment. We have to keep following this.
But the backstory, Zhen, the day before, you were maybe not sure you were going to get to the lab to do that presentation.
Yeah, I was 9 months pregnant at the time. And the day before, I had a gallbladder stone episode. So I was sent to the emergency room because it was extremely painful. And they were going to, observe me and maybe even giving birth at the time. And I told everybody, I said, don't touch me. We're going to have a demo tomorrow with J&J. James told me I would be there. I have to be there. So I convinced the doctors to release me that night so that I can be at the demo this next day. And that's what I did. The whole thing went really well until I had to get up to walk from the presentation place to the lab, and I couldn't really walk. But everything worked out, and that was a really big turning point for HistoSonics.
And J&J became one of your investors, right?
They did. They became one of our largest investors and were a great investor in the company and allowed us to go forward. And also that's when, with J&J's input and really Dr. Joe Amaral's, where we pivoted the company away from BPH to prostate to liver, because J&J really wanted liver. And also it was an easier target for us. The prostate was actually a hard target because you had to go through a lot of tissue where you needed a lot of power, where the liver had lower power requirements. So we had even higher probability of being able to be successful in liver. And that's exactly what we did.
HistoSonics' Edison system got FDA clearance in 2023 to treat liver tumors. More than 65 hospitals are using your system. What is one of these treatments like?
Patients typically come in and they get anesthetized, and the procedure prep time, treatment time altogether about an hour or so. They wake up. Then the doctor will tell them, now you can go home now. So most patients will all ask the same question: did you do anything to me? Because they don't feel the pain, and they were told that they can go home, have dinner at home the same day, and return to normal activity the second day. As a matter of fact, we actually had a patient who is a runner and they couldn't run for quite a few years because of pain from the cancer. And after the histotripsy treatment, within the first week after treatment, she went out and ran 20 miles, unheard of.
Wow.
For any kind of cancer treatment, because really she just she felt so good about it, and there was no pain, no side effects.
Yeah, what's really special about histotripsy is it gives you very high quality of life. Unlike all the other cancer treatments that are really debilitating and have high morbidity, just like Jen said, I mean, histotripsy after your treatment, you get really high quality of life, and patients love it, and their families love it too.
The two of you went through so many highs and lows and stuck it out when others didn't or might not have. How much more potential do you see? You're treating liver now, but what kind of impact do you see going forward that HistoSonics and histotripsy will have on the world?
So histotripsy is a platform technology that can be used for non-invasive treatment of many, many different cancer types, as well as other solid pathological tissue target. We already have ongoing clinical trials on tumors in the kidney and in the pancreas. We are also looking at other applications, including tumors in the breast, prostate, thyroid, and even in the brain through the skull entirely non-invasively and combined with immunotherapy to treat not only just a focal tumor, but really the systemically.
Yeah, histotripsy is an amazing platform, and this is really the third act of it. The first being the initial invention that we discussed, and the first clearance for liver is the second act. And now it's really the expansion. And with this transaction and the additional funding from these visionary investors, we're going international and are going to have a global impact to really increase the access of this technology around the world to improve outcomes for all the patients.
You know, the two of you and all the people you rallied around you, what a great example of Midwest Moxie. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing this amazing story.
Thanks,
Thank-
Kathleen.
You can read more about today's guest by visiting wuwm.com. Don't forget, you can also listen to the show as a podcast if you'd like to take us on the go. Just search for Midwest Moxie, that's MOXIE, wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm your host, Kathleen Gallagher. Midwest Moxie was created by executive producer Audrey Nowakowski and me. Today's episode was produced by Audrey Nowakowski and engineered by WUWM's Jason Reevy. Support for Midwest Moxie comes from Microsoft, whose efforts to drive technology development across the Midwest and beyond include its National TechSpark community engagement work, which started in Wisconsin, its role as co-founder of Titletown Tech in Green Bay, and its new AI co-innovation lab at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. More information is available at Microsoft.com. Support also comes from Quarles, a multidisciplinary AM Law 200 firm with approximately 550 attorneys who support large and small businesses, from Fortune 500 companies to startups and entrepreneurs across the country. More at Quarles.com.